InPower principle number 1. Sustainable power is acquired from the inside out. What this means is that when you secure your inner power, it's easier to acquire and maintain power in the outside world. Now, when you look at the idea of power, it has a rather tarnished history. The kings and the stories of ancient and historical figures are rather bloody, and the absolute power corrupts absolutely maxim comes true a lot in our history. And you look in our stories and in the movies we can go to and the books we can read, and you see this theme reinforced. And unfortunately, when you look on the headlines of the paper, we see a lot of it is still coming true. There's a lot of external power wasted and a lot of power abused. And this makes it easy to be ambivalent about power, if not downright cynical. And that's why this principle is so important, because it makes a distinction between the kinds of power that you can acquire, and the order in which you acquire it matters a lot. So let's talk about the difference between external power and internal power. One simple way to think about the idea of power is simply the ability to control resources. It's not necessarily good or bad by itself, but when you have the ability to control resources, you have power. And in the external world, this usually means you have money or you have authority. You have the ability to write checks and tell people what to do and make things happen. And when you're trying to make things happen in the outside world, having external power is necessary. But it's different than internal power. If external power is about manipulating external resources, then internal power is about manipulating internal resources. Well, what are our internal resources? Our internal resources are our thoughts, our actions, our time, our energy, and the things that we do with these things. When we really control these inner resources, we control ourselves to an extent that it becomes much easier to get the kind of external power that we seek, and when we have it, to use it wisely, to not abuse it, and to use it well to accomplish great things in the outside world. And this is important because having external power brings a lot of pressure with it. Sometimes we experience this in relatively simple ways like work-life balance, because you have a responsible job and you need to be available 24/7 sometimes or for some reasons. And that puts a lot of pressure on your life. So learning to manage your time and your energy so that you can still do your job well and yet be able to have a life and be able to focus on other things that are important to you requires that you be able to control your time and your energy in ways that allow you to get everything you want out of your job and out of your life. And there's no one solution. The solution for one of us is not the solution for the other. So being able to control your inner resources is critical to being able to establishing that thing we call work-life balance. There's a lot of other pressures that come with external power. Ethical pressures, pressure to be someone you're not. These kind of things are more subtle in some ways than your time and your energy, and they require that you know who you are. They require that you know your values, that you know where you stand and where you're willing to take a stand. And this is being able to control your thoughts and your actions. It's very important to understand this kind of internal power, to invest in this internal power as a part of your career and your life. Because once you can claim it fully, you own it fully. It's always there. You are never powerless again. So what's the secret to starting to claim these internal resources as yours and get control of your inner power? Well, I would like to tell you that if you just take one course or take a pill or read a book, it'll all be better. But I think you already know that it's not quite that simple. And the way to start thinking about this is really to think that this is an adult skill you're learning. This is part of your leadership journey. You weren't born with control of your inner resources. This is something that you're acquiring. It's part of becoming human. It's part of becoming an adult, and it's certainly part of becoming a leader. So start where you are. That's a principle actually you'll see in the next video in this series. Start where you are and accept that whatever control you have over your inner resources is what you have now, and that in the future you will have more. and set your intention on having more control over your inner resources and start the journey. There are resources all over the place. You can go to yoga class, you can learn to meditate, you can read books, you can go to workshops, you can take the courses on this site. There's a lot of different resources out there to help you with this. But I will tell you the one most important thing to know about claiming your inner power. And you will rediscover this over and over and over as you continue on this journey more consciously. And that is that the single most important secret to claiming your internal power is letting go of everything keeping you powerless. And on your inner power journey, that means letting go of your excuses and taking responsibility for your own internal power and claiming it, not blaming other people. It means putting aside your ego sometimes. There's healthy ego, but then there's unhealthy ego that keeps us sort of trapped and unable to accept what is. So you will discover as you set about on your own journey to find your inner power that you bring up some of these resistances. Some of these excuses will come back to you. Some of these sort of powerless attitudes will become more apparent to you. And your challenge is to learn to let them go because they no longer serve you when you're trying to claim your internal power. When you claim your internal power, those excuses, those gremlins, those little voices in your head, some people call it the inner critic. I don't call it that all the time because I think it goes deeper than that. Whatever it is that you've called to you that's keeping you powerless, now is your time to let that go. When you step into your own power, you must release that which keeps you powerless. That is the golden rule of inner power. And if you take that to heart as you explore further in your own InPower journey, I guarantee that you will be able to claim more of your inner power every single day. Now, the rest of the series will give you some other little tidbits like this that will give you ideas on where to start thinking about your InPower journey here. But they're all just ideas. You need to take them into yourself. You need to decide what's the most important thing for you to do right now to claim your own personal power. I know you can do it because I know that you are powerful.